What if the man you've been visiting in prison is actually your father? 20 years ago, John vanished without a trace. Brutally attacked and left with no memory, he was wrongly imprisoned without trial, while his wife gave birth to their son alone. She waited, she hoped, she never gave up. 2 decades later, fate brings her son to the very prison where a quiet inmate named Tony lives. But Tony is no ordinary prisoner. He holds a truth that will shake the foundation of everything they thought they knew. This is a story of love lost, faith tested, and a family rewritten by destiny. If you believe in miracles, second chances, and the power of unwavering hope, this story will stay with you forever. Welcome to part 2 of 20 Years Lost, the prisoner no one remembered.
When John woke up, he was in a small clinic, weak, dizzy, and confused. The nurse called him the robber who survived. But he had no idea who he was. His name, his past, everything, gone. The doctor diagnosed him with head trauma-induced amnesia. The police came. They asked questions. He could answer none. No identification. No address. No contact. Only bruises and blank stares. So, they gave him a name, Tony. A placeholder for a man they assumed to be guilty. He was transferred to a correctional facility in the city. No court hearing. No lawyer. Just a paper tag that read, awaiting trial. Inside prison, life was cruel and quiet. Tony, as they called him, followed routines like a ghost. Eat. Sleep. Sit. Stare. He never caused trouble. Some inmates mocked him, others ignored him. But a few respected the man who never raised his voice and never cried. Years passed. He became a fixture in the prison, aging slowly, still nameless in the eyes of the law. He often dreamed of fire. And sometimes, he saw a woman's face, kind, beautiful, weeping, but he didn't know why. Somewhere far away, that woman was still waiting. Sonia's labor began in the dead of night, just days after John left for Abuja. She waited, prayed, and fought through pain alone. In her heart, she believed John would walk in at any moment with his smile and open arms. But he didn't. When the baby came, a boy with bright eyes and his father's nose, she wept uncontrollably. Joy and sorrow mixed on her tongue. She named him Joshua, a name that meant God saves. Days turned into weeks. No calls. No news. The number no longer went through. The fear she had buried began to grow. She visited stations, asked questions, searched hospitals, but nothing. It was as if he had vanished from the earth. People whispered. Some said he ran away. Others said he had died. But Sonia refused to believe either. John is not that kind of man, she'd say. He wouldn't leave us. She stared at the checkbook he left behind, flipping through the signed pages, wondering how long it would last. Eventually, with a baby in her arms and strength in her bones, she wiped her tears, tied her wrapper, and opened a food store once again. If he wouldn't come back to share the joy, she would carry it for both of them. Prison was not a place for remembering. It was a place where names faded and identity eroded with time. The guards had given him the name Tony, and soon everyone, inmates and staff alike, called him that. Tony never corrected them. He couldn't. The name John was buried somewhere in the fog of his mind, unreachable. His thoughts were like scattered puzzle pieces with no image to guide them. Dreams of fire haunted him. A woman's voice, soft and urgent, called out to him in flashes. A baby cried. Then darkness. Years passed like ghosts. New inmates came, and old ones left. Tony remained. Always quiet. Always distant. He helped out in the prison library when he could and often sat alone by the window, staring at the sky as if it might one day speak. He became known as the peaceful one, the old-timer who caused no trouble, spoke little, but had a calming presence. Though no one knew where he came from or what he had done, everyone respected the quiet dignity he carried. Deep down, Tony wasn't waiting for freedom, because he didn't even know he was trapped. Until someone arrived who would unknowingly light the match that would burn away the fog. Back in Benin, Sonia adjusted to life without John. It was hard. The nights were the hardest, when Joshua cried and the silence screamed questions she had no answers for. She searched and searched, hospitals, police stations, even correctional centers. But nothing led to him. Everyone said she should move on. Some offered marriage. Others offered pity. But Sonia stayed rooted. Her heart told her that John wasn't dead. Something had happened. Something big. But no one believed her. With the little money John had left and the signed check pages he gave her, she opened a small restaurant, Sonny's Kitchen. It was located near a mechanic yard and quickly became a favorite for workers and passers-by. Her jollof rice was unmatched. Her heart was even warmer than her food. Joshua grew up surrounded by the aroma of stew and stories of a father he never met but always heard about. "Your father was strong," Sonia would say. "He loved you before you even entered this world." She worked late into the nights, cooked every morning, and raised her son with discipline and love. People called her the Iron Woman, but inside, she still missed the man who used to hold her hand through the storms. Joshua grew up tall, inquisitive, and gentle like his father. He loved books, soccer, and asking questions, especially about his dad. At school, when his classmates drew family trees, he always left one branch labeled missing. Sonia made sure he lacked nothing. She paid his school fees, ironed his uniforms, and taught him to pray before bed. Sometimes, she would bring out the small box of John's old things, his photo, the gold chain, and a baby onesie that had never been used. Joshua would stare at them in silence, then ask, "Mommy, do you think Daddy is alive?" Her answer never changed, "I believe he is." Joshua carried that belief like a badge. It shaped his view of justice, of people, of purpose. He wasn't bitter, just curious. And with every birthday that passed, his desire to understand his father's disappearance deepened. He excelled in school, went on to university, and graduated with honors in sociology. When NYSC placement came, he prayed for something meaningful. Somewhere he could help people. Somewhere he could make a difference. He never imagined that the government would post him to a correctional center. He had no idea that the walls he'd soon walk into held his destiny. The NYSC assignment. When Joshua received his posting letter, he stared at it for a long time. Kaduna Federal Correctional Center. It felt strange. While others complained about rural villages and remote schools, he stood still, unsure why his heart beat faster than usual. "It's just service," he told himself. "A year will fly by." Sonia, upon hearing the news, was silent. Then she nodded. "Maybe there's a reason," she said. "Go. Do good." The facility was large, grey, and intimidating at first glance. But the staff were welcoming, and the inmates treated him with the usual mix of curiosity and distance. As a core member, his job involved helping in the rehabilitation program, library duties, educational classes, and occasionally offering moral support. He took the job seriously. He listened when others didn't. He spoke kindly when others backed. That's how he met him, Uncle Tony, the older inmate who sat by the window with calm eyes and slow movements. Tony barely spoke to anyone. But the first day Joshua greeted him with, "Good afternoon, sir," something shifted. Tony looked up and smiled faintly. "Afternoon, young man." Something about him felt familiar. Joshua couldn't explain it. but the pull was real. And it wouldn't be the last time they'd speak. Uncle Tony. Over the following weeks, Joshua made it a habit to visit the prison library daily. Uncle Tony, as the staff casually called him, always sat at the same corner seat, reading, writing occasionally, or just staring out of the window. Their conversations began with polite greetings and small talk. But soon, they grew into something deeper. Joshua was drawn to the man's quiet wisdom, the thoughtful way he spoke, the patience in his manner. Tony, on the other hand, found comfort in Joshua's presence. The young man reminded him of someone. He wasn't sure what. But his heart warmed every time Joshua entered the room. They talked about books, life, food, dreams. Sometimes they'd laugh over a shared joke. Other times, they'd sit in silence, just content with each other's company. One day, Joshua asked him, "Why do they call you Tony?" Tony paused. "It's the name they gave me. I don't remember what my real name is." Joshua blinked. You don't remember at all?" Tony shook his head. "Just flashes. Fire. A woman crying. A child. That's all." A strange silence settled between them. Something stirred in Joshua's heart. He didn't know why, but something about Uncle Tony felt like a missing piece. Joshua began spending more time in the prison library than he was required to. The other corps members noticed. So did the prison staff. But no one said anything, because Uncle Tony had started to smile again. There was something wholesome about their friendship. Joshua would sometimes bring him bananas, old newspapers, or books from outside. In return, Tony would tell him stories, little tales of life, choices, and faith. Many of these stories didn't seem like fiction. They felt lived, experienced. Yet Tony always brushed off questions about his past. One day, while discussing names and their meanings, Joshua casually asked, "What name do you think you would have liked to have, if not Tony?" Tony stared at him. "I don't know. But the name John keeps coming to me sometimes. Like a whisper." Joshua froze. His father's name was John. He had never mentioned this to Tony before.
Thanks for watching. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe for more African tales that inspire, surprise, and heal. Drop a comment. What would you have done if you were in their shoes? Turn on notifications so you never miss the next twist. Follow us for more powerful stories that reflect real life, real culture, and real emotions. African Folktales TV, where stories come alive.